I'm John Mancini. I'm president of Content Results, and I do work with AIM on their Industry Watch program. And we're really pleased to share with you our first report of the year, which is focused on the state of the IIM industry. And I would urge you, at the end of this video, you'll find information on how to download a copy of the report. And I think you should really check that out because I think it will give you an idea and some hints on what it takes to be a digital transformation leader and how you can differentiate yourself from follower organizations. So the first thing we did in this survey was we asked organizations to self-assess their digital transformation importance, their effectiveness, and their overall organizational effectiveness. And the reason this is important is that, first of all, you can see some pretty big gaps in terms of organizational commitment to digital transformation as well as how effective they are. But what we really used this information for was to create an index of leaders and an index of followers and compare how they view different facets of intelligent information management. So the first thing I think for organizations to consider is something that AIM has been talking about for a couple of years now, which is that there is a rising tide of information chaos that imperils the efforts of organizations to transform. When you look at the intentions, organizations clearly have the benefit of digital transformation in mind when they answer a question like this and say that 58% basically see more value from their data and information as a key priority rather than just reducing costs. That's a big step forward, I think, in terms of the importance of intelligent information management. When you think about the challenges that people have, these next two slides really illustrate the nature of the challenge. So the first question is we asked organizations to think about, okay, if your information now is X, what do you think it's going to be in 2 years? And the answer came back a pretty surprising 4.5X. That's a gigantic growth. That means you can't manage that information flow with the traditional ways that you have managed information. But it gets even more complicated when you start thinking about, okay, well, what is this information? And on average, 57% of this information, according to the survey, is unstructured. That's a pretty familiar term for people in the content management arena. But what that means is that it's not just a question of volume, but it's also a question of variety of information and unconventional information that needs to be brought under control if you're going to be successful in your transformation efforts. So as we looked at this, let's share a few differences between leaders and followers and think about what that tells us in terms of their information management strategies. So this first one, we asked, what's your biggest obstacle to truly transform? And what you can see are a couple things. One is that strategy and budget is a concern for organizations of all characteristics. But what you see is a differential between organizations that are leaders who tend to do a better job of creating a true strategy for managing information assets. They tend to do a better job than followers do. And that has ripple effects through all the rest of the categories. That means that they have a better chance of focusing on higher order challenges rather than just that simple question of getting information under control. This is also mirrored when you start thinking about questions like what are the biggest challenges that you have in information management? And again, when you look at this question is really of information management and having a strategy for managing information assets through their life cycle becomes an important characteristic in determining all of the other things that organizations focus on. And transformation leaders tend to focus more on security, on customers, on analytics, and on alignment. And that's a really positive thing moving forward for them. This other question, in which these are the 4 categories that AIM has defined as intelligent information management. And what we tried to do here was gauge how much people are spending. This is basically focused on effort, if you will. And what you can see is that, first of all, this information chaos problem in terms of that first and fundamental objective of creating, capturing, and sharing information is a challenge for organizations of all scopes, but it's an even greater challenge for the follower organizations. So what I want to suggest to you, and we go into detail in this quite a bit in the ebook, is think about what are the facets of competency when it comes to digital transformation. And we'd like to suggest a 10-point digital transformation competency checklist. And when you look at the ebook, you'll get a sense of how organizations that are leaders compare to followers against each of these elements in the checklist. But let me go through these and just give you a sense of what we're talking about here. In blue, you'll see the 4 IIM categories that AIM has defined, and underneath what we consider to be core competencies tied to each of those areas. So in terms of creating, capturing, and sharing information, this concept of intelligent capture, automated capture, injecting information from your capture efforts into your business processes, that's what intelligent capture is all about. Also using artificial intelligence to improve those processes. Digital workplace is all about putting tools in the hands of knowledge workers in the context of their everyday work. Leading organizations also spend a lot more time thinking about customer journeys rather than internal departments, and that's an important differentiator. They tend to adapt robotic process automation tools quicker than follower organizations in terms of thinking about how do you take manual processes and manual inputs out of your processes. And they tend to view BPM as a foundational technology to which they add agile tools to make those products and processes more effective. Again, going over to the other side of the slide, you can see some of the areas related to automating governance and compliance. This idea of managing information across its life cycle. The concept of planning modernization rather than just letting it happen. And lastly, the increasing importance placed upon making information private and making information secure. And then the last category focuses on extracting intelligence from information. And 2 dimensions there that we look at in our competency checklist. The first is, are you machine learning ready? Even if you're not ready right now to actually deploy machine learning tools, you have to start getting your information into shape so that they can be managed and improved and gain insights from machine learning tools. And that ties to the last point of understanding information, not just in terms of what it is, but of what it is in the context in which it is used. So that's the report. I would urge you to download a copy. You can get one at the URL listed here. I'd really like to thank the sponsors of this report. Without their underwriting, we couldn't give this information to the user community for free. And so I'd urge you to check out their offerings and check out some of their descriptions and offerings within the ebook, and it'll give you some ideas of further resources to pursue. This is John Mancini on behalf of AIM. Thank you very much.